VAR needs to go. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, today's video we're talking about VAR and the standard of English Premier League refereeing and subsequently the usage of the video assistant referee, the technology, who's behind it, everything along those lines, because this weekend provided another round of Premier League fixtures which should be exciting and we should be talking about it, but instead we're talking about the massive elephant in the room. We're talking about the big overshadowing that VAR and the standard of English Premier League refereeing is causing in regards to the Premier League, the so-called biggest and best league in the world. We should be sat here and we should be talking about Liverpool losing their unbeaten streak to Tottenham. We should be talking about Wolves pulling off an unlikely victory against Manchester City. We should be talking about Arsenal getting back to winning ways with a win against Bournemouth. We should be talking about Manchester United losing to Crystal Palace. And we should be talking about Luton Town picking up their first victory of the season and of their return to England's top flight division with a 2-1 win over Everton. But instead, we're sat here discussing about the standard of refereeing in this league, and we're talking about their usage of VAR yet again after what was another appalling display this weekend. Not just in the Tottenham-Liverpool game, which of course has done the rounds on social media and has been the big outcry this weekend, but also in regards to other games that happened across the Premier League as well. Aston Villa Brighton had a couple of controversial moments. Manchester United Crystal Palace, should United have had a penalty? And not even 24 hours after the Liverpool Tottenham horror show by referees, but in the Brentford Nottingham Forest game where Brentford probably could have had a penalty for Matty Turner's foul on Visser. A lot of moments, a lot of controversy, and it's once again overshadowed the game. And on top of that, the cherry on that particular cake is another PGMOL apology that was created after the Liverpool-Tottenham game for, of course, Luis Diaz's perfectly onside goal being chalked off for offside in what was another embarrassing display by English Premier League referees and another embarrassing moment on the PGMOL so far this season. We're only 7 games into the campaign, but they've already made three massive errors that have resulted in apologies being given to those sides and to those clubs that have been affected. Imagine what it's going to be like after a 38-game season. We're going to be talking about the standard of referees and VAR because it has raised the question of whether VAR should stay or whether it should go. We're going to be talking all about that later on in the video, but before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things always and probably greatly appreciated. And of course, for you lot to get involved in the comments section as well. I'm sure you have a lot of interesting thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. That'll make for great and interesting reading on the subject of VAR and the standard of English Premier League refereeing. So do get involved down there. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's talk the standard of English Premier League refereeing. Let's talk about VAR and everything else in between. Now, before we go any further, I would like to point out I'm a big fan of VAR. I like the technology side of it. I think it still has a few kinks that need to be ironed out. But for the most part, I like what it does. I like how it's used. Well, I like what it's meant to be used for, shall I say. I like how... I just like how it's been brought in. And I think it is a worthwhile asset to have in the game. I think there are a few things that need to be ironed out. Like I say, I think communication needs to be ironed out between themselves and the people in the stadium, the people in attendance, and I think it needs to be ironed out between them and the people that are broadcasting so that people at home can know what they're checking for and what they're doing and things. But that can be ironed out. I also think better and clearer camera angles could also be needed as well. But I'm sure that could also be dealt with in time. They're not significant issues. The significant issue as to why I think it should go and why we should scrap VAR is because of the standard of English Premier League refereeing. It's abysmal. It's terrible. And it's getting worse by the week. We've had 3 apologies by the PGMOL so far this season, and we're only 7 games into it. 7. That's almost one every other week. In fact, if we get one next week, that is one every other week. It's appalling. It's abysmal. We had, obviously, the Manchester United Wolves one, where Wolves should have had a penalty when Onana clashed into the Wolves player, whose name escapes me now. But that should have been a penalty. You had the Manchester City goal that they scored against Fulham, the second goal, which should have been ruled out for offside, which wasn't. They've apologised on those occasions. And then the latest one this weekend being Luis Diaz's perfectly onside goal being chalked off for offside, despite him being 62 centimetres onside. Clear as day. You can clearly see that he's onside. You don't need your little protractors and your little rulers to work out he was onside. He was clearly onside, but yet a miscommunication occurred between the referees to allow Tottenham off the hook and to obviously keep the game at that time at 0-0. Appalling. Shocking. Abysmal. And those are just some of the decisions that, of course, have been apologised for. There have been other controversial moments, even this season, that have not had the apologetic treatment from the PGMOL, but have also been controversial. Numerous penalties being given that shouldn't have been, penalties that have been that shouldn't have been given that have been, and vice versa. Red cards aplenty. Controversial ones at that. It's been a very awkward start to life as the head of PGMOL for Howard Webb, and for an awkward start to the season in general for referees and for VAR and everything. But it doesn't seem to be improving. It doesn't seem to be improving, and that's the reason why I want this scrapped, because the standard of referees is not improving whatsoever. It's getting worse and worse, in my opinion, and it's only going to be a matter of time before everybody blows up about it, because you can clearly tell the frustration. Last weekend, or the weekend before, I should say, you had the Sheffield United manager come out and claim that referees were ruining the game. You've obviously had the numerous decisions that I've talked about already in this video happen. Klopp obviously came out very unhappy, as you would be and as expected to be, because obviously there were some shocking decisions that happened on Saturday night when Tottenham played Liverpool. It's getting worse, and it's only a matter of time before everybody suffers with it. And I do have a little bit of sympathy. I do have a little bit of sympathy for referees in terms of some of the subjective ones. VAR is not there to be 100% accurate. It's impossible, because at the end of the day, it's still human judgment and it's still human error that is going to occur. That's what people need to get into their minds. It is still not going to be 100%. For example, the Christian Romero handball last week, I saw as being a handball. Others may not have seen as being a handball. That's fine. To an extent. It's horrible, but with the way that the laws are worded and the laws are written, that kind of massive grey area is going to occur more often. And that's why some decisions are made in other teams' favours and some decisions are not made in other teams' favours. What may be given one week may not be given the next. What may not be given one week is given the next. Vice versa. That I sort of have sympathy for, and that's why it causes debate. And that's why you see it again doing the rounds online. For example, I used the Romero one for handball, but what about for fouls and red cards? Should Curtis Jones, for example, have seen a red card on Saturday? In my opinion, I don't think so, because I think context needed to be applied to that particular instant. And what happened was, of course, a 50-50 challenge goes in, Jones's foot slips over the ball, makes contact with Basuma. It's not malicious, he's going for the ball, he's not trying to break Basuma's legs, but because of physics and because of the way that the ball is, of course, it looks worse than what it is. The context not being applied is that of the pace in which both players were running at, the ball being in the position it was, where the ball was kicked, where the ball moved, and of course the shape of the ball itself. That's what, and obviously a still image looks worse than what it would in real life. So of course that's going to make it look bad and look worse than what it was. I don't think it was a red card per se, but at least I can somewhat understand why the referee would give a red card. At least I can somewhat understand the controversy surrounding it and why some people think it's a red card and some people don't. I can understand that. I can understand handball. What I can't understand is the way that things being black and white are still considered to be wrong. I can't understand why Luis Diaz's goal, for example, was ruled out as offside. You can see clear as day it's onside, and a miscommunication error occurred to allow the goal to be chalked off. And it wasn't even rectified afterwards. There wasn't no, hang on a minute, you've not given Liverpool a goal there. I said to give Liverpool a goal. It would have looked bad and it would have been a miscommunication, but at least you would have got to the right decision in the end. At least you would have got to the right decision and the right action would have been taken to, of course, go back, give Liverpool the goal and have Tottenham take kickoff and go a goal down. That would have been the right thing to do, but instead there was a miscommunication and they decided to leave it where it was. When it's something that clear and that obvious, because again, the clear and obvious rule, by the way, I've had problems with numerous times. What is clear and obvious? What's clear and obvious to me may not be clear and obvious to you, may not be clear and obvious to the referee, and so on and so forth. That's stupid. But that was clear and obvious what happened there as a horrible mix-up and a horrible miscommunication that resulted in abysmal refereeing. I don't get it. I simply do not get how you can make that kind of mess up and how you can make that kind of mistake. It's appalling to me. It's abysmal. And like I say, the only thing that happens is we get a half-measured apology by the PGMOL and the hope that, oh, they'll learn from this and they'll come back better. But that doesn't help the club, does it? If Liverpool, Wolves or Fulham, and I only use those three because they're the ones that have obviously had the apologies being dished out to them. I imagine every team will have a PGMOL apology by the end of the season with the way things are carrying on. If they lose by a point, by 2 points, by 3 points, a Premier League title, a Champions League spot, a European football spot, or a relegation battle, they can pinpoint that game and go, we should have got something there. We should have got something there, and that might have actually kept us up for the season. It's shocking. It's abysmal. And like I say, it doesn't help the clubs out at all. An apology doesn't help the clubs out in the slightest, because it happens time and time again. I'm not expecting it to be 100% accurate. I'll reiterate that point again. I'm not expecting it to be 100% perfect, but what I am expecting is the standard of refereeing to improve once things like this happen. And the baffling part about it to me was that not even 24 hours after the Liverpool incident, there was an incident that happened in the Brentford-Nottingham Forest game in which Matty Turner completely clattered into Visser after Visser stole the ball off him when he was attempting to clear. It was a late challenge. If Visser stays down, I think it's a penalty, but it's not given. The ball trickles towards the goal line, but is cleared off the line. You've just had one of the worst controversial moments in VAR and probably refereeing history happen a day before. Did you really want to put more of the spotlight onto you with that? It's overshadowing football. It's overshadowing great games. And in saying that, it's not just the club that suffers. The club may suffer in the long run. And, you know, in their stupid minds, they may be thinking, well, next week we just won't give so-and-so a penalty. We won't give so-and-so that, this, that, the other, and it balances it out. It doesn't balance it out. It doesn't make it right. If you were to make two wrongs make a right. It doesn't make it right. It's just getting worse, and it's not just the club that suffers. It's not just the players that suffer. It's the fans. It's the fans that suffer. Because you claim this whole Premier League is the best league in the world thing. You claim that it's the best league in the world, but the officiating is so poor. And it's not getting any better. I would have expected this kind of thing to happen at the beginning of VAR's time. But VAR has been introduced now for a good 3 or 4 seasons, maybe even longer. And it's not getting any better because the standard of refereeing is not allowing it to blossom. It's not allowing it to do its job. It's in fact getting worse because the decisions are there in plain sight for all to see. And the referees are doing poor. And the referees are shocking. And the PGMOL can come out and make all the stupid law changes that they want. They can add on 12 minutes of added on time in injury time. And, you know, they can make these dissent laws to try and stop players from surrounding referees or waving the imaginary yellow card. Which, by the way, both of those things seem very inconsistently used. So another point against referees there. They seem very inconsistently used in terms of time added on and in terms of waving the imaginary yellow card and dissent. Very inconsistently used there. So they can make all of these stupid laws that they want in order to try and protect themselves and to try and protect their mates as well. But the fact of the matter is that you keep on making these stupid mistakes, you keep on making these stupid law changes, of course people are going to get frustrated. Of course more players and more managers are going to speak out against you. And it may be alright for you because you can hide behind the FA. You get the FA to fine them and get it in and get that money in your back pocket or whatever the hell it goes. I'm not even sure where that money goes to. But at the end of the day, you're not helping yourselves. And like I say, we need to improve the standard of refereeing before we can use VAR. Because at the moment, the refereeing standard is so poor that when they see it and when they have the ability and the privilege of seeing it back, the incident from a different angle, different perspective, they still can't make the right decision. And it begs the question, do we need to start bringing in referees from other leagues? Do we need to start bringing in other referees from different parts of the world? I don't know what the big idea is. I don't know what the situation is going to turn into. But it can't continue like this. It's leaving the PGMOL completely embarrassed every single week. It's leaving the Premier League completely embarrassed. And the ones that are suffering most, like I say, not just the clubs, but the fans as well. The fans that are paying week in, week out, big money to have these streaming services and to have Sky and to have BT to watch the games every week. And we still don't get the full package, by the way, because we still don't get all the games, which is another matter for another day. But the fact of the matter is they still pay so much money to have these games and they're being ruined. That Liverpool-Tottenham game was only 50% of what I know that those two teams can play. If that stays 11v11, that is a much better game than what it was when 11v10 or when it went to 11v9. That game is a much better game if Luis Diaz's goal stays as a goal. I guarantee you that. In another alternate world, I guarantee you Jones doesn't get sent off, Diaz's goal stays, and it's a much better game because that was 50% of a game ruined by incompetent referees. And it's time VAR was scrapped because it's not the technology's fault, but it's being damaged by incompetent referees who cannot do their job properly. Anyway, rant over. Those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of the standard of English Premier League refereeing? What do you make of VAR in general? I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. That'll make great and interesting reading down below in that comment section. So do get involved down there. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way out. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always very greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. I will see you speak to you all again soon in another video, live stream, or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Take care. Have a good rest of your day. And I'll see you speak to you again soon.